DeShaun Foster's building depth in the portal and winning over fans with the spring game.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download, review. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Come on, it's easy for me to admit I've got a competitive side. I'm a big fan of Monopoly Go. The mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. Join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free, on the App Store and Google Play Store. Where we begin this episode is not exactly a review of the spring game, which we'll get later on. We're talking about the work that UCLA has been putting in to get guys from the portal, keep them out of the portal for guys they truly want to keep, like Jay Tuia in the previous week, and most importantly, filling up spots on the depth chart based on what UCLA needs to improve upon from 23 and simply get depth after injuries in spring football. Case in point, over the weekend, UCLA had a huge host of recruits, whether it's 25s, 26s, guys in the portal that they're trying to get immediately. The Bruins, during that spring game, got a couple of commits, immediately potential plug-and-plays. Maybe one being more of an initial starter and another one for UCLA turning into a guy they needed out of necessity after the Hudson Habermill injury. So let's talk about that. First, we've got a big-time offensive lineman coming from Houston. You got Ruben Unije, who was initially committed to Louisville, has been around the block a little bit, played 4 years as a Cougar, and now heads to UCLA, a big 6'5", 6'6", 300-plus pound offensive lineman at Houston. He's been around the block, a super senior, if you will, hails from Florida, and committed to UCLA over the weekend. This is a big get for the Bruins because UCLA desperately needs improvement on the offensive line. That's paired with the likes of Alani Makahele, who already joined UCLA, an interior offensive lineman. Unije is an offensive tackle. You've got guys with maybe 1 to 2 years of eligibility left that are going to immediately compete for starting spots. With Makahele, you've got Unije with 2 guys that come in 3 stars from high school, 3 stars from the portal, and that's immediately going to compete for an offensive line that Chip Kelly in the previous year tried to go to the portal, didn't work as much. I think these guys fit the bill. You got a 6'3", 350-pound offensive lineman on the interior, and then Unije, who comes in 6'6", 3 bills. That's a big boy that can help bulk up this offensive line, preparing to go to Big Ten play. Because UCLA, I think under Eric Bieniemy, they're going to try and run the football a bit. They got quite a few running backs, might even try and get one in the portal. But with Harden, with Keegan Jones, with a freshman, UCLA is going to have to bring the ball and pound the rock. I love Garbers coming back and being a starter, working with the offense. But UCLA's bread and butter still should be able to run the rock, eat some clock, and then find the receivers out on the exterior, out wide for Ethan Garbers. So for the Bruins, couple of gets on the offensive line. And the most recent commit prior to the recording in this episode at the end of April on the 29th, you've got a tight end, which maybe isn't the biggest name, but you've got Bryce Pierre coming from Arizona State. He's also a COVID senior, a well-journeyed football player. And Bryce Pierre comes in as a guy that's going to be a plug and play. He's probably not going to compete over Malik Matavao for immediate starting reps, but somebody who adds depth to a room that desperately needs it. This is Bryce Pierre, who played a little JUCO. He started at Mount Sac, went to ASU the last couple of years, and finds his way over to Westwood, where after being at Mount Sac, Liberty, ASU, you look at the numbers, right? It's tough when you try to look up these guys on their sites, because as soon as players transfer, some universities literally act like they don't exist. So if you go to the 2023 roster and you look for Bryce Pierre on the ASU football page, he doesn't exist, because as soon as he committed somewhere else and went to the portal, they just axe his numbers basically. But if you look on their stats page, you'll see what Pierre did. 12 games played, 17 receptions, 139 yards, 8 yards per catch was his average. Didn't exactly average a lot of catches or yards per game, but a decent average when it came to a tight end who would catch an occasional pass, 1.5 receptions per game, where 8 yards per catch, it's not a bad deal when you got Matavao, a room that needs not exactly an upgrade, but just more players in it. Pierre Stan, 6'5", comes in with probably a year of eligibility left coming to UCLA to commit. So let's think about this. UCLA has been able to keep Jay Tui on the D-line. They've added offensive linemen. They have found a way to get another tight end in the portal. DeShaun Foster is making things happen. And that's without even mentioning the spring game, without even mentioning it. So he's going after some by necessity because he was hired so late in the recruiting cycle. He couldn't necessarily go get the biggest and the best. He's getting the guys that are still out there, still looking for homes after spring ball or trying to change places after coaching changes or what have you. And UCLA is finding pieces and they're grabbing him. Maybe not eye-popping, extreme, immediate talent, but it's great to see DeShaun Foster says, I have a wish list, and he is addressing it. Sometimes there's the eye-popping, bring everybody, get the Friday night lights, get everybody excited on social media. That's what DeShaun Foster's winning. He's winning the fan base's hearts through the offseason. There's one thing to win the offseason, but he is doing something completely different. His journey is very different than the rest of what Chip Kelly was trying to do or what he's trying to do as pulling away from Chip Kelly. Restore love and unity with the fan base and UCLA football, with the LA sports fan, the casual LA sports fan, and the UCLA fan in general. Come to the Rose Bowl. Come watch the spring game. I got pieces. I'm going to go to the portal. I'm going to get them. Drives up the NAL budget and says, hey, come on, boosters, donors, come here. Let's talk. Pushes out content on social media. Goodness talks to the media and says, hey, he's so much nicer than Chip Kelly so far, which is not much, very hard to do, but he's blowing him out of the water. So he is doing things by getting players in, getting some beefy offensive linemen when they have to go get some stout defenses in the Big Ten, and addressing needs, immediate needs, because of the 3 ACL tears the Bruins have had in the offseason heading into 2024. And to look about 2024, let's talk about the spring game, a little bit of the environment. Maybe not so much X's and O's, because they're not playing to full takedown. They're playing to thud. And if you don't know football terms, thud is basically touch. You don't go full contact in the spring game. At least UCLA wasn't. We'll talk about that in the atmosphere and what it brings to UCLA going forward next on Locked On UCLA. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You've already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments, work together to build up each other's boards, and the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, from unique stickers to trade with friends, cool new playing pieces to travel boards with, and hilarious emojis where you can taunt your buddies as well. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. Always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, cruising here in the second segment for Locked On UCLA. Zach with you guys. I was there, one of the 11,000+ in the Rose Bowl. I know the UCLA Athletics Department had talked about the reservation of up to 20,000 tickets in the Rose Bowl. In reality, my experience was as follows. Going to the spring game, maybe you saw me, maybe you didn't, but I was there. All you had to do was literally go park, drive all the way down the hill, find plenty of free parking spaces into the Rose Bowl, see some of the alumni boosters, see all the exciting high school athlete recruits coming in, just enjoying the atmosphere. Even though there's golf going on where we love to tailgate the Rose Bowl, enjoying the atmosphere just around the bowl itself and finding ways to enjoy food, everything in between. That was just outside. You walk up, they had their clear bag policy, whatever. I didn't even have to take out my phone when it came to reserving a spot. They literally just said, come on in. So even if you needed a reserve ticket, it's probably more of a marketing ploy, get you guys thinking and looking, hey, how they get emails to new UCLA fans trying to join the DeShaun Foster hype train for the Rose Bowl in 2024. Well, all you had to do was literally walk in and they didn't even scan anything on your phone, despite there being a barcode. At least that's the entrance I went in when I walked in just before 2 p.m. when UCLA started their spring practice, because it was technically a spring showcase in a light spring game. I did not go to the soccer game. I'm sorry. A busy morning, was not going to the soccer game. Not that there's anything bad about it, but it was a doubleheader event. So if you went to the soccer game, maybe post it in the comments. But the spring game itself started a little slowly, let people build in. And overall, spring games, it's for people who are trying to stay in touch with football for as long as possible, because goodness gracious, if you can't go more than 2 months without a football game, we've got to go watch some practice. But remember, Chip Kelly kind of kept it more closed doors. Didn't really like this. And the only thing I'll say about Chip Kelly when it came to the lack of a spring game, whether it was his lack of persona and love for the UCLA fan base or the COVID pandemic, which kind of just wiped out a lot of these events and keeping people fully engaged, it was a fun event. Now, spring games aren't necessarily my most exciting thing to go to on a Saturday, but still the energy, whether it's the PA announcer, the regular Rose Bowl PA announcer for the Bruins games, whether it's just the hype train where you had Shea Pitts going, interviewing players, lots of former Bruin alumni, whether it's big-time basketball players, former football players, were there in the bowl, all sitting around DeShaun Foster enjoying the hype. You had Eric Bieniemy stalking the sidelines, everybody enjoying the shade for the most part on one side of the Rose Bowl. It was a fun event. Now, how much did we learn for UCLA? One, that fans will show up if you tell them. Now, is it going to be 100,000 like it is in the South? No, they're still building. It was not going to be a 60,000 seat filled event in the Rose Bowl, but it's something to start from zero, from nothing into something. So the fact that the Bruins are able to get some hype, had some bounce castles, they had food, they had lots of things potentially open in the Rose Bowl, and it was fun to see the fans go and enjoy. Now for the actual play in the field. They had the one-on-one drills for quite a bit. They had the scoring system, which was offense versus defense. They didn't do the whole blue versus gold draft to make two separate teams. They said offense versus defense. The offense ended up winning with the flags and the mixture of easier plays for the offense because the defense can't take it down. It's usually an event that the offense is going to win. It's tailor-made for an offense to win, especially when you have Bieniemy, a complete overhaul of the defense, and a running back as a head coach and as your offensive coordinator. Probably going to be a little tailor-made, closer to an offensive showcase. Wasn't exactly that, but it was a little disconcerting to see the first play be a Garber's pass, nearly picked off but dropped. So it was kind of a little bad on both ends. Still, wasn't good to see him throw it into traffic and nearly get picked off. The things I did like, though, were Titus Mokia-Otamalala. Missed him a lot in 2023, but hopes to figure in a little more in the 2024 offense. I know the Bruins threw a lot of balls in one-on-ones to Rico Flores, the Notre Dame transfer. I didn't really hear a lot of many other receivers. Of course, there's a lot going on. Everybody's talking, yelling, we're watching, right? But it was good. Like, nice to see the defense blow up some plays going in the backfield. And again, this is not an event tailor-made for the defense to go full contact, 100% to the ground. It was thud, light contact, easy. But in the end, I did like in some of those one-on-one drills, the throws that Justin Martin made. So maybe the Bruins could be building that quarterback for the future. I know everybody has been in the comments for a little bit of time talking about Martin and his maybe desire to transfer, considering they had brought in Dante, Garbers has stayed, but Martin's developing. And after that brief action he got last year in the game, in the FCS game, right, when the Bruins had an opportunity to get a lot of players in, the development to now, Martin being the number 2, there's been a significant development for him from one year to another. Not sure he's going to take over Ethan Garber's job in the middle of the year, but you never know. But it is nice to see him building and hopefully be that quarterback for 25 and beyond, depending on how 2024 goes for him. Yet the Bruins made some plays. It was fun to see. You had commits, recruits there, lots of high schools there supporting high school gear, which is important because you want them, 1, to go to UCLA, 2, to play, and 3, all those guys to commit and say, hey, this is a fan base that's growing. We want to be a part of something that's building heading into Big Ten play. That's the important thing, right? DeShaun Foster winning over the hearts of the fan base, the alumni, the donors, the supporters, the athletic department, everything is what he is doing has been an A-plus effort. Maybe he hasn't gotten the best players in the portal or the biggest recruits just yet, but this is a slow building block from what it was, considering he was hired in middle February, and then they turned a spring game where there wasn't one, the need for one, and all of a sudden there's a little bit more hype going into this 2024 season. Now, can I say I was fully impressed with what was displayed on the field? No, it's only spring practice. I was hoping for a little bit more of a sharp, well-oiled machine on offense, but, it's spring, it's April, still a lot to learn and develop and change heading into Eric Bieniemy's system compared to a Chip Kelly system that's been built and regimented into most of these players' minds over the last couple of seasons. Still, the offense is going to have to be the engine. They're going to have to do a lot of things for this team to be a bowl contending team in 24 and to compete in some of these tough non-conference road games and tough Big Ten conference road games. The offense has to be sharper. Garbers has to be sharper, and the offensive line must protect him and allow for the run game to flourish in 2024. Now, there's still a lot to learn and a lot to grow from this team as spring ball comes to an end, but it was nice to see an event that I think ran pretty smoothly. And most importantly, there's also memories to be had. What are the memories? You had a kid running for a touchdown right before. I don't know why the ref threw the flag when he scored a touchdown, but still, we had the heartwarming moment before they started the official spring game part with the offense versus the defense. You had everybody going on the field, talking to the players, maybe wearing a helmet, getting some autographs. It's a little different in the NIL era than it was, say, 10, 15 years ago when I was younger, or back in the day when you were younger, if you're listening or watching. But still, that connection from fan to player, university to fan base, that is key. That's how you win over young Bruin fans and turn that over again and again and again. That is the connection that we've been missing, whether it was from fan base to head coach, player to fans, everything. That is what it was all about. And it was great to see that on display at the Rose Bowl on Saturday. And the fact that fans went, I was hoping for a big gaudy number, but in reality, they're building from the bottom up when it comes to support. Considering they got nearly a third of what they got for the worst attended UCLA football game ever in the Rose Bowl, basically. I remember that Bowling Green game when it was 100 and a billion degrees. I went to that game. This felt a lot more energetic and a lot more fans than that 2022 game where UCLA played Bowling Green. And that was a pretty solid UCLA football team, let me tell you. And they still dominated Bowling Green. And they had a lot of stars who've moved on and started in the NFL since that team in 2022, or were drafted over the weekend, like Leatu Latu and Darius Muasau and company. That event had a lot more energy and felt like there were more people in the stands. Maybe not the case than the Bowling Green game. Obviously, it wasn't 115 degrees or a ridiculous number it was that day, baking down an 11 a.m. game, so there's more shade in the Rose Bowl. Still, UCLA is building some goodwill with the fans, with me, and there's still a lot to learn going into fall camp, a lot more weightlifting you can do, a lot more study in the film room, but the Bruins are getting there, and that's what's important. Speaking of getting there, UCLA women's basketball is in an arms battle across town with some of the best players in the high school ranks and in the portal. Who has Cori Close gone after, gotten a commit, and some players who have left since we last talked about them since their season ended? Let's talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose, but everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which means getting tickets easier and faster because prices on the Game Time app actually go down closer to first pitch. Killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game More takes the guesswork Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets because you can save up to 60% off of last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy events, theater, and more. You can use all-in pricing, toggling the feature that shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. You know what you're getting, and there's the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. All right, we're wrapping up this last segment of Locked On UCLA today, talking about the women's basketball team, because the Bruins, they're going to be in a super battle next season with USC and heading into the Big Ten. It's UCLA and USC and just about everybody else. That is my thought process on it. And I know Iowa and everything, but Clark's gone. It's not the same. It's UCLA and USC. Ironically, they go to the Midwest to play a rivalry that could have stayed on the East Coast of the Pac-12 stayed together. Either way, USC's made their moves. The Bruins have seen a lot of players leave, from Emily Bissoir no longer staying with UCLA after her ACL tear. You have Lena Zontag, who is retiring from basketball, and Christine Iwala, who is heading into the portal. So that's 3 big Bruins, and this is older news, leaving the team. But the big news is, with a lot of spots open, Cori Close, with still a significant amount of players coming in, some 5-stars are coming in this 24-25 class for UCLA, right? That doesn't even include Lauren Betts' sister, who's in the next class in 25, that's already committed for what would be Betts' senior season. You've got Sienna in the wings in a year, 3 incoming freshmen, and a superstar, which was already announced a few days ago, but let's talk about it. Charlisse Leger-Walker. USC's been winning the offseason. JuJu, They got some big players coming over, like Stanford's big guard, but the Bruins got a significant player. The injury will be interesting with Charlisse Leger-Walker from Washington State, who single-handedly took the Cougars to the NCAA tournament in 2023, beating the Bruins in that Pac-12 tournament championship game, and single-handedly, for almost 3 quarters, beat UCLA at home at Pauley Pavilion during their rough stretch when Lauren Betts was out. And it was Leger-Walker who got hurt, interestingly enough, in that game against UCLA. That almost let the Bruins come back. Now, you wonder how her season-ending injury in 24, which did crush the end of the Washington State season, is going to affect UCLA. The number 4 rated transfer in the transfer rankings when it comes to a 5'10 guard, 1 season of eligibility left. I know they just lost Osborne. They lost some key pieces. They do have some sophomores going to be juniors now and freshmen coming in. The New Zealand native, the Pac-12 freshman of the year in 2021, was an 18, 19 point per game scorer as she led the Cougars to their first NCAA tournament appearance in 30 years. Was the most outstanding player in the Pac-12 tournament in 2023 and played 21 games before a season-ending injury in January 28th. That means so far she's had 3 months to work over it and get healthy. Averaged 16.5 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game at Washington State, over 105 career games. If she is anywhere near what she was previously and healthy enough, if the Bruins can weather the early storm, she will be clutch during postseason time. I wonder, with the knee injury that was sustained against UCLA, I wonder how quickly she can recover. Because the quicker she can recover, Charlisse Leger-Walker, that's almost, I think, bigger than what USC is getting and better than any other team across the country. Now, that's the gamble you have to take, 1 year of eligibility for someone who is recovering from a pretty devastating knee injury and not a lot of time to do it, right? This wasn't one that happened in November, early December, where you have a full academic-like year to overcome this. This is something where if she recovers, 9 months would be October, 10 months would be 2 weeks into the season, 11 months, we'd be probably into Big Ten play. And that's an aggressive recovery for someone you would hope is immediately inserted into the starting lineup or a super 6th player of the year type candidate, depending on what she's dealing with injury-wise. Now, I would assume Cori Close, they did their due diligence. They've looked. They're trying to figure it out. But Charlisse Leger-Walker is a big name and a big get for the Bruin women, who you're losing someone who is a top 2 scorer all time, one of the best 3-point shooters. You still got everybody coming back from Kiki Rice to London Jones, Lauren Betts, Gabby Jaquez, right? And then you got the 3 freshmen coming in. And all of a sudden, this is a team that is losing a little bit of veteran presence, but the talent is getting younger. And now the other talent is getting older. And you mix that in, and I still think this is a team that can absolutely compete for a national championship in 24 to 25. I think they're still on the short list of contenders next season with how dominant Betts was, the 3-point shooting of Jones, and the dynamic ability and the hopefully ever developing ability of Kiki Rice. And this is a team that can contend with what Charlisse Leger-Walker can bring. The one bugaboo is how that knee can hold up and recover, hopefully in a quick sense, not just for UCLA, but for her and her future pro career after that. Now, for Leger-Walker, that is a big get. I'm excited, and I wonder how it'll all play out for someone who averages 60.5 points per game. If she's healthy and ready to go by next March, this could be like if you think about a mid-season trade deadline acquisition, if you will, where you're getting a 2-month rental. Not that you want to really talk about players in those terms in college, I guess, but now that they're making NIL bucks, it's kind of the same thing. You're getting like a 2-month trade deadline acquisition, right? This is something the Bruins are stashing in terms of talent at the back of the bench until they can hopefully trot her out on the court and make her a solid Bruin for 2 months and maybe lead them to the promised land, which they've never been in the NCAA tournament days of women's basketball. That is what they're hopefully. And now there's probably information that I'm not privy to, but still, you look at the history injury-wise of just knee injuries in general, the timing of it all. Probably someone who will be a 2-month sprint type player and will be ready to rock and roll when it comes to tournament time and has the experience to do so. And I'm excited for that. And we should be excited for all the basketball in Pauley Pavilion. Big Ten men and women, they should be ready for the Bruins to come to town and beat them up. Because Cronin's hit the portal. Cori Close has just hit the portal with a big name. Let's get excited. So get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.